Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow and perhaps even check out our Patreon. And welcome to episode 2 of building a modular layout sponsored by the fine people over at Grange and Hodder. Now if you've seen episode 1, and if you haven't, it's coming up somewhere there for you to go check it out, I attempted to build a baseboard that had been sent to me by Grange and Hodder, and that went flawlessly without any issues whatsoever. And with my baseboard successfully built, it was time to start thinking about a plan. The way we're going about this is a bit different to the traditional way of building a model railway. Normally you come up with an idea or a concept, or perhaps a real world location that you want to model. And from that you can start laying stuff out, maybe in some software like AnyRail, and working out the size of space you need to be able to build your layout and recreate this scene. Obviously sometimes you'll go, well, I can cut various bits out of this to make it a slightly smaller layout. For instance, if I was going to model Ipswich station, I might decide not to model the exchange sidings further up and just model the station. I've got the tunnel at one end, which would be a good in and out point, and then the platforms at the far end would be the other end of the layout. I might also decide to shrink the platform slightly to make it into a more compact size. Now, that's the normal way of going about these things, going, I'm going to do X. Sometimes, however, you just want to build a layout and you look at the space that you've got in a room. For instance, my desk here, and go, what could I fit in this space here? And then the mind starts thinking, well, I could base it on this, I could do this, I could have a station, I could go freelance, I could do whatever. With the modules, we're more going down that route because we have a set space to fill. We either have a 900 by 600 mil board or a 1200 by 600 mil board. And that is the space that we have to fill. We're all using these uniform size boards, so whatever we model has to fit within these exact spaces. And that means it's a little bit of a different way of going. Rather than building a board to suit the layout, we're building a layout to suit the board. And so what will we do? The idea is that we're going to have something different and it will all kind of come together in a nice overall layout. But as we're not talking to each other, that does make it a little bit more complex to make sure we're not doing the same thing. So here's hoping that doesn't happen. The only thing we do know is that Charles is building the centre module, which is going to be a station, and that's going to be the passing place. Every other module will at the very least have a railway running from point A to point B through it. What people choose to do with that remains to be seen. Now I thought I wanted to do something a bit more exciting than just a straight bit of track running through it. So I started thinking of ideas of what I could do and what I could fit in this space. My first idea was to do a bridge scene and having the board come, drop away, and having maybe even the Hornby suspension bridge. I know railways never ran across it, but it would be a nice centrepiece running across the middle of the layout with a river or maybe a ravine underneath. And in fact I actually started buying stuff for this end. And then I remembered that the layout is going to have the railway 10 centimetres from the edge of the board. And that made me feel that actually I would have a lot going on in the foreground and absolutely nothing in the background, and it would just look a bit naff. You've got this massive imposing centre right next door to the edge of the board and then just empty space behind. It would look like you're viewing the module from the wrong side. So after a lot of thinking about maybe I could curve the track and put nest bend in, or have the board set slightly further forward than the other one so it ran down the middle, and being told off by the rest of the Nearly Competent Modelers Association, I decided that maybe that idea would have to be shelved. I then thought about doing an intermediate station to have something that has a main line connection to it, and I started thinking of heritage railways around the country that have a main line connection that runs next door to the heritage section. And the one that immediately came to mind, and also would be fairly simple to model because it's not in the middle of a town, is Erridge Station on the Spa Valley. The heritage line comes down and runs parallel to the main line, where you get units running up and down the main line next door to steam locomotives. And I thought actually this would be something quite interesting, having a platform where trains can come and stop, and then I can just run DMUs in and out of this other line. And in my head 1200 millimeters was a lot of space. And then I started planning it out, and with a bit of track and going onto AnyRail, and I realised that 1200 millimeters in the terms of 00 is not actually a large space at all. In fact, it's rather limiting. And the more I played with it and the more I tried to come up with ideas, I found that I didn't really have the space to put everything that I wanted in. By the time I'd had a platform big enough to take a 2-coach, say, Sprinter, I would also need that platform to be big enough to take our standard trains, which are going to be 3 coaches long, plus the locomotive, which is basically the entire board. Which means there'd be no parallel running, and the DMU would have to curve away very sharply immediately to pull off the board so it didn't interfere with the next module. And having played with that for a while, I just realised as much as I'd like that to work, and as much as I thought it would be interesting, it just wouldn't, and would look a bit, well, naff as the railway curves away at first radius, and if I hid it behind the scenic unit, it would go up, or it just wouldn't work with another module. So that idea was scrapped. Now, by this point, I was realising that with LMM I'm quite busy, so I still wanted something that was relatively simple to model, but something that still had something else going on to amuse me during the show, so I could still operate it if I wasn't operating the main module. And after a lot of thinking, I remembered I'd been to a station called Cork on the West Highland Line, and it's the highest station in the UK. This station used to serve an estate, and it is in the absolute middle of nowhere. There's a restaurant there, and that restaurant you can only get to if you use the train. There's no road access, there's no water access, and maybe if you had your own helicopter, you could fly that and land that there. This would be something relatively easy to do because it's surrounded by moorlands, and for me, who's a little bit strapped for time, and doing moorlands to an acceptable standard would be relatively easy. All I'd have to build would be a platform building, a B&B that on the end of it, maybe the signal box, the restaurant, and a couple of little buildings around. This seemed quite doable, and there were only a handful of trees and fences as well. The first problem was that to model it properly would be bigger than my board, so I had to start thinking about how to shrink it all down. The platform would go from being big enough to take 2 of a 4-car DMU set to just taking 1 and a bit Mark 1s. I would bring the yard in a lot closer and make the yard 2 sidings with a double slip, meaning that I could shunt wagons back and forth and keep myself isolated from the main network. This, I thought, was a good idea. A bit of operational interest and a very simple plan. And so this is what I've decided to do. The others, on the other hand, have all had different ideas about what they want to do.
Modular Railway. I'm Charles, and I have got the central module for the railway. I've been told that I have to do the station, which is fine. I quite like stations. They're not the best part of the line. The best part of the line is being on the footplate. But I've got some ideas for it that we're going to flesh out. We'll see what we can get through. I've got to have a passing loop because 2 lines of trains coming in, so they've got to pass somewhere there. I've also got the control for the main railway, so the controllers are going to get mounted probably in my board to be able to operate the entire line, both directions. So passing loops, control modules, got to do the isolation system for it. To complicate matters, I think I'm going to try and fit in a little shed scene, little yard or something just behind the station, because in my head, if we're going to do a single main station, you'd call that the main starting area, so that's probably where they had their little shed to start off with. So I'm probably going to try and incorporate that into it as well. And then just to add to the difficulty on the most important module that absolutely has to make it, probably going to have a look at using point motors and motorised signals, because why make it easy? Why make it easy? So thinking through all of my plans, I've got a few ideas. I physically can't picture stuff in my head, so I have to draw it down onto a piece of paper or through a bit of software on a computer to make it work. So I'm going to go and do that, and then I shall leave you with the plan that I have managed to get to that I like the most, and then we'll see if I can fit that to the board. It might fit. I may have to revisit this plan many times because I may get very overeager.
It is going to be a countryside theme with a farm.
The track work has been kept to a simple design comprising of 2 sidings. These will once utilised by the farm for goods, however are now disused and contain rolling stock for future projects for the railway.
So we're excited to see how it looks.
Hi, I'm David. I'm also doing one of the boards for the modular layout. I have already done some bits. I'm planning on doing a bridge section. Whilst some people would do a bridge and just have a cutout in their board, I'm going a little bit bigger than that. I'm planning on a big enough gap to walk through, which in turn is just about doubling the length of my board. So I'm currently at 900 millimeters. I'm going to almost 1.8 meters. So that would be a doubling, but I know I'm going to be a bit less than that, just because of pivot points and all of that.
Hi, I'm Loz. I'm planning to build a module based on the museum that features a turntable, short demonstration line with a shuttle unit, and can also be used as an Inglenook shunting puzzle. This is going to be quite large, so I'm using 2 base lords, which is quite a lot of work. And as if that wasn't enough, someone voluntold me I'm now building the traversers for the ends of the layout as well. Oh, also, I literally wrote the guidebook on how these things go together, track placement, terrain, that whole thing. So if it doesn't work, it's mostly not my fault. Yeah, I should better get to work.
The most important thing about the modules is to get the in and the out points correct. If we don't get those perfectly aligned, the modules won't connect up to the other modules, and when we go to connect it all together for the first time on Friday night before the show, there will be a great disaster. To this end, we made an alignment module, a tiny board that has got the connectors placed in the correct place, and every other module will connect to that. Thus, if they all connect to that module, they'll all connect together. This module is being sent around everyone who's involved in this project. At the moment, there are 9 of us building different modules. When I decided that I wanted to actually put some track down, the module was elsewhere. Charles, on the other hand, had already got his alignment in place. So I decided to take my board up to Charles's board so that we could at least connect things up.
So for laying track, we're going to be using cork, like this.
That looks a little narrow.
No, I think this is the right stuff.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
It's a little thin as well, mate. That looks about half as wide as it should be.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah.
About half as thick.
I've made
Yeah,
mistakes.
that's not...
I have to lay 2 strips.
Quarter scale. It's half scale.
No, it's
You've
quarter
got
scale.
half scale.
No, it's quarter
So
scale.
it's half scale.
It's going to have to lay 2 layers of it.
It's half scale. It's half as wide and half as deep as it should be.
I think I bought stuff for Engage. It's even in the book. It's in the guide what I needed to have ordered. And I
What? Anything?
It's fine, we'll just take 2 of these. And we'll lay them side by side. We'll use the centre alignment. And we'll lay the other.
Centre alignment.
And then we'll lay the other one on the side next door to it. And that is the right. Stop going there. We'll lay 2 of them, and that'll be the right thickness. And then we'll lay another one on top. Oh, I'm landing a lane track and it's gone wrong.
How much cork do you need? Leg?
4 times what I've ordered. Oh, how is this hard? Oh,
I can't.
I don't understand how difficult this was.
I don't understand how I've done it. That's the thing. Spanner.
So, did you order the right size?
I'll tell you one thing, that spanner that I ordered, I found in my car as soon as I ordered it.
Yeah, that's actually... Was it a 10 mil?
And it was the 17er.
Oh, that's unusual.
4 mil by 40 mil. That's not what that is.
That's not what that is, and that is what the guidebook says.
Right, so I'm not completed yet.
I'm not going to answer that.
This is not my fault.
I mean...
Also, I now can't send it back because we've already started on it.
Yes. Well, you don't have time either. I mean, a smart person would have got it out of the packet and gone, this doesn't look like it's 40 mil wide.
I'll be honest, when I was looking at it to bring it up here,
yeah,
I was like, it took me, I kid you not, an hour to find it because it's so much smaller than I was expecting it to be.
I'm not going to say anything to that comment.
Please don't. Some of that is within the roadbed of the track. Some of it is absolutely spot on. Some of it is totally out of gauge. Some of it's in the cess. But some of it's spot on. Right, this is going to be fine. Oh no.
Sorry, I'll hold this end.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's good. You missed the entire thing. Give me a second. I might need to create that slightly.
Why didn't you put glue on the cork?
Because big brain no worky. I'm letting him build him by this.
No brainy.
I'm letting him do this by himself because he should be competent enough to do it.
That's
but I feel like I could be wrong. It's fine.
Very definite curve going there.
Get the straight edge on it in a second. We'll put that on now.
Currently, it's very curvy.
Yeah, but it's a good straight curve.
What's a good straight curve?
Since you've adjusted it before I got a chance to do that shot, it's not as bad as it could have been. But that's straight as a die. That's as straight as a circle. Straight as light near a black hole.
It's like baking a cake.
Only without the recipe and the wrong ingredients. And you're making biscuits.
No, look, you've got 2 layers of...
Is this how parents feel when they're doing it like baking a cake with their child? And the child's there, but he's not really helping.
I feel like you may want more glue at this end of the board.
So the good news is, we're laying 4 bits of cork. We're now at the level that we should be. So what level of fancy? So this is what should have been achieved with a single roll.
What there's going to be a problem here when it joins the next module. We appear to be doing the James Bond thing.
But that's going to be a corkscrew.
It's fine, that's going to be sorted.
So normally, if you need to pin your cork down just while the glue dries, just 1 pin every now and then works fine. Today I'm using 2 for no particular reason at all.
So much. I hate how amused you are.
I'm having a great day. It's obvious 3 sleepers, but you can see we need to take off to that 4th.
Yeah,
so take that 4th off, but to flush to the 4th. Double check.
So they should be just flush with the end.
Yeah.
For soldering the aligner to the rails, Charles roughed up the bottom of the rail to ensure a good join.
Ow!
What are you doing?
This is how you get them out of the bag, right?
Absolute numbskull.
And as Charles had already soldered his rail aligners together on his board, I just let him get on with it on mine.
You cooking bacon?
With a little bit of fiddling, we managed to get one of the wires to go through the tiny hole on the rail liner. This now would become a dropper, feeding power to that rail. And then a further blob of solder to cement it in place. There we go. Getting the second dropper in turned out to be a bit of a team effort, but eventually we managed to force the wire through and Charles added a little bit of solder to hold it in place. Oh, there's a bolt under there.
I've crashed into the... Ta-da! So this is how it should work.
Yes.
Put blood on my module. In complete disregard to my instructions. So theoretically, when we've got these on, we're there.
In theory.
Yeah.
And with the track in place, next thing to do was test it.
This is prototypical, yeah.
It seems to work. Oh, look at that one for a bit of uncoupling.
And having played trains for far, far too long, it was time to work on the other aligner.
use one of those.
I'm learning lessons about maybe not doing what I've done again. My poor drill bit. And so we've run our first train to go from module to module, and we've all got a good idea of what it is we're trying to build. The only downside is there are only now 5 short weeks to try and build the modules and get them all up to an exhibition standard and then take them to Statfold to test them. And frankly, that's quite terrifying because I've got an awful lot of work to do, and judging by the progress everybody else has made, we've all got an awful lot of work to do. So, hope to see you at the Statfold Barn Model Railway Show. Do check out the link in the video description so you can see when that is, and for more information, let us know in the comments below if you think we're going to succeed or not, or if it's going to be a giant muck-up and be hugely embarrassing for everybody involved. And of course, do go and check out Grange and Hodder for the fantastic range of baseboards that they do. Having a standardised baseboard design for a challenge like this is imperative to its success. If we didn't have boards that were all the same height, the same width, the chances of it actually going together were next to nil. So a massive shout out to Grange and Hodder for the quality baseboards that they provide. It has made this challenge possible. Whether it actually all works is, well, remains to be seen, but at least the baseboards will be good. And of course, there's a link to their website in the video description so you can order baseboards just like ours. And with that, thank you all very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, how about clicking somewhere over there for episode 1, where I attempt to build one of these fine baseboards, or down there for the last video of the Statfold Barn Model Railway Show, where we took micro layouts along, so you get an idea of the flavour of the kind of show that they put on. And with that, thanks for watching. Please give this video a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, and of course, wish me luck. And let me know if you're coming to the show. I'm not nervous. You're nervous. Maybe we're both nervous.